Hello and welcome to another useless movie review. The kind of review that bears no relation to the actual movie being reviewed. Today it's time to tear apart the 1961 epic that is Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea. So let's get started. In a time when there were manufactured tensions between America and Russia due to the Cold War, movies were made to manipulate the minds of the masses about this, while at the same time avoiding the obvious enemy being shown to be Russia. And so we're gifted with a gaggle of, at the time, household name actors who eventually became the very inspiration for the Thunderbird puppets due to their outstanding wooden acting. So here we are, introducing a movie that points out that America could spend ludicrous amounts of cash on a state-of-the-art flying nuclear sub, have it piloted by half-wits, and still come out superior. Look, here comes some propaganda now in the form of some old newspapers telling us how the sub is so secret it's in newspapers all over the world. For those born after the year 2000, newspapers are like extremely slow iPads that you can't get much information on, but are equally disposable. The captain of the state-of-the-art sub is listening to the newsreader announce the fact that there is a new sub in town, the very sub he's captain of. He has a giggle and carries on smoking in the confined spaces, gifting his fellow buckaroos a healthy dose of passive smoking before it became popular many years later, and before they were made to smoke outside, which many will still remember led to the massive semen shortage of 1995. But I digress. And for those born after the year 2000, newsreaders were like podcasts of the day, only less informative and worse at reading things. This sub is so secret, even their name badges aren't allowed to show their names, which makes them a little superfluous, but someone liked the colour blue, so they decided to keep them anyway. The captain informs Number 1 that it's time to get underway, and under no circumstances is he to press the red nuclear launch buttons littered around the ship, as the plastic covers haven't been fitted yet. "Yes sir," comes the smart reply. You can see by the look on Bluey's face he knows that shit rolls downhill, and he's gonna cop all the backlash from his colourblind superior when the news hits he's just launched several nuclear weapons, and he was just a few days from retirement too. So now they're underway, it's time to introduce everyone who has more than one line in this movie to each other in 10 forward. So Blue 1 and Blue 2 meet an admiral who's on board to oversee the maiden voyage, a visiting doctor from a mental institution, and Adolf Schicklgruber, who won a Hitler lookalike competition in Hamburg. First prize was a maiden trip on a secret flying sub, apparently. Now our happy band gets shown around the main deck, where the captain takes the time to show the good doctor their collection of green lights, a rudimentary counting device, and a machine that rewinds VHS tapes. All state-of-the-art stuff at the time. For those born after the year 2000, a VHS tape was like a DVD, only it had a lot more tape in it. It's hardly a moment later, it seems, before they're introduced to the amazingly stupid idea of an indoor swimming pool. Here we meet George, the work experience trainee. He's only 15, but he looks a bit older since his combine harvester accident back on the farm. He's here because he was told to take the rubber shark for a walk as a jolly jape by the Human Resources Department. He doesn't mind though. He can move its tail with his good hand, and he gets to bang his head into the walkway every time the sub dives. Shaking hands with passers-by is his hobby, and a welcome chance to pass on germs too, so it's not all bad. Bidding farewell to George for the time being, we're introduced to the metalworking room, where invention and innovation are the name of the game. The pièce de résistance is the newly crafted man torpedo that is just itching to be tried, and no doubt will be by the end of the movie, or they wouldn't have built the prop in the first place. Next it's on to sickbay, where the doctors exchange pleasantries and a joke. "Why aren't there any painkillers in the jungle?" he says. "I don't know," she replies. "Because parrots eat 'em all," he retorts. Well, this was the 60s, so of course it's an old one. Anyway, time for more secret name badges for the guests, before they move on once again to the crew's mess. Here, a blue genie is reenacting the movie Reefer Madness for a guy with the horn and a bunch of bored onlookers. After breaking up all the frivolity, Number 1 asks what time Blue 23 has booked his dental appointment for. 2:30, sir, is the reply. For those watching who were born after the year 2000, a joke is what today's memes are based on. Fun fact. Soon after his dental appointment, Number One joins the captain just as he's receiving a call from his mother. He asks her if she got the Mother's Day present and the batteries he sent her. Judging by the sound of vibration over the phone, apparently she did. Suddenly, the light mood is broken by an attack of heavy polystyrene blocks, and everyone meets in 10 forward for some synchronized jostling to pass the time until it's over. It's not long after that they surface to find some fool has fired off nuclear weapons into the atmosphere. Apparently some idiot had pressed a red button somewhere, and they're informed they have to head back to base for questioning. Meanwhile, in sickbay, a crewman overcome by too much jostling is being given an intravenous of vodka as a muscle relaxant. His condition is relayed to the captain. At that very moment, the female doctor suddenly realizes one of her contacts has fallen out somewhere. And it's at this point the patient starts making a sound like crunching glass. He's quickly sedated though, before he wakes up and realizes he can sue for malpractice. They arrive back at base and have George dressed up like a scapegoat should proceedings go south. The only way they got him to wear the monkey's suit was to allow him to bring his favourite Pokemon pictures and a grey pencil to colour them in with. The captain states his case that it wasn't his fault the nuclear weapon went off from his sub, as they were responding to an external threat he can't quite remember right now at the time. One of the investigators shouts that he has to own up to his mistakes and be court-martialed, whereupon George asks how he's expected to concentrate on colouring in Pikachu with all this shouting going on. The captain, realising his interrogation is only leading down court-martial road, whispers to George it's his last chance to have a tinkle because they're leaving now, and they all do a runner while they have the chance. And it's back to the sub under the glow of a beautiful atomic sunset. Once back on the sub, the captain states that absolutely everyone must stay away from the red buttons, as pressing any more will only add to their problems. But Bluey knows the score. If he's going to be blamed for all this debacle, he's taking the rest down with him. After George is changed, he along with the captain and Number One meet in the captain's room to plan their getaway. Number One suggests South America, but the captain informs him they just blew the shit out of that area, so they'll divert to London instead. The captain informs the crew, but they don't take it well, with several going insane. One hides his bad acting behind a backgammon board, another cries over spilt milk, and yet another is caught drinking a fellow crew member's hair tonic. Things are looking grim. And in the sickbay, the increase in casualties is not doing the good doctor any favours. Her morphine habit has come back to bite her just as Number One comes in to ask her how it's all going. As she shows him around the lollygaggers, Number One asks her about the collection of pens in her top pocket. She explains one is an EpiPen. It was pressed into her hand as the patient was going into a coma, and she was keeping it, as it seemed very important to him she should have it. Number One soon makes his way back to operations, only to find the incidence of pressing red buttons is skyrocketing. He's wondering what can be done about all this when the alarm goes out ship-wide due to them being surrounded by an angry-looking pack of mines. This, of course, is just the excuse they've been waiting for to launch the new manned torpedo. Bluey 12 and Bluey 36 strap in and launch into the fray, and it's not long before their mission is a complete success, destroying some mines and scaring away the rest. Soon they surface to find a world of desolation, and as they go out on deck to catch some rays, the captain explains the only way this can be resolved is if everyone, and he means everyone, stays away from all the red goddamn buttons. A few weeks later, things are not looking any better though. Number One is beginning to think painting the buttons different colours was not the surefire plan he thought it was, and to make matters worse, he has to announce the cases of bird flu are somehow on the increase as well. Finally, in a desperate attempt to fix the atmosphere, they do what any self-respecting superpowers would do in a situation like this and launch all the nukes they have into the atmosphere. And as George doesn't understand the difference between fireworks and the end of the world, he lurches forward to congratulate the captain on the lovely light display, and takes the opportunity to pass on the bird flu as well. Strangely, in a stroke of pure luck, the missiles react with the climate change in the atmosphere, and for no other reason than a happy ending and a change of backdrop, everything is blue skies again for our heroes from here on out. The end. Thanks for taking the time to watch this pile of garbage, and hey, if you feel like you enjoy watching this sort of stuff, don't forget to hit the subscribe button below. Thanks and bye bye for now.